Let's see. Reduce the volume. Okay. Is it clear? So let us begin with a small prayer. This is a prayer to the divinity that is present in our heart and everyone's heart. We invoke that divinity to guide us toward light and wisdom. You can repeat after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So Vasudeva is the all-pervading divinity. And we pray that divinity be manifest in our heart. So I'll speak today on how it is celebrating Janmashtami, and I welcome all of you here today. And I'll speak on how Krishna's appearance in this world demonstrates his teachings in the Bhagavad Gita. So I'll ask some questions. How many of you have heard the word destiny? Destiny? Has anyone heard the word? Most of you have. Let me ask another. Has anyone not heard the word destiny? Thank you. Now, how many of you believe in destiny? Some of you do. Okay. And before we go into believing in destiny, what do you understand by destiny? What is your understanding of what is destiny? That which is supposed to happen. Okay, it's a good definition. Thank you. Any other definition of destiny? That's all. Everybody agrees with this definition? That which is supposed to happen. Okay. Then let me ask you a question. Do you think that everything is destined? No. Okay. How many of you think everything is not destined? Can you raise your hand? Okay. How many of you think everything is destined? Few of you. Okay. So, all of the others, you are destined to be not interested in destiny. Okay. So, destiny is something which is not just a philosophical concept or a belief of some traditions. It's something which we all experience in our daily lives. In the sense that we consider, say, cricket is the most popular sport in India. And most cricketers have their own idiosyncrasies, their own superstitions, their own beliefs. When they enter into the stadium arena for batting, make sure that the right foot is forward, or they look up at the sky and come, or they'll bend down, touch the ground. Now whatever it is, sports is an area where individual performance matters a lot. Players have to excel. But anybody who is involved seriously in sports also recognizes that while individual performance matters, performance is not all that matters. Sometimes, despite the best performance, maybe the weather goes unfavorable and a match is cancelled. Sometimes the player performs very well, but then somebody else performs much better, and then they lose. So there are factors beyond our performance that also act. So what are these factors beyond our performance? And whatever idiosyncrasies, superstitions, practices cricketers have, they are actually meant to appease that whatever is unknown. There's a Australian prayer. Australians were known to be quite tough. They're sledging, quite famous for that. But Australian cricketers are among the most superstitious among the world's cricketers. There was a well-known Australian batsman, Mark Taylor. Whenever he would go out to bat, he would first go to the pavilion restroom and shut the lids of all the commodes. And if he got out early, he would not go to the pavilion, he would go to the restroom. If any commode lid was open, he would blast, who kept that open? Because of that I got out. that got to do with anything? Well, this is not logical, it's psychological. That there is that understanding, something beyond me shapes my result, shapes the result I like. So let me appease that unknown in some way or the other. That is the idea. And now if we look at Krishna's birth, why am I talking about destiny? This principle of destiny is displayed very vividly in his appearance in this world. Many of you may probably know about the story that when Krishna's parents just got married, on their wedding evening, who were his parents? You had this quiz. Devaki and Vasudeva. So when they were going after their wedding, suddenly there was this celestial voice in Akashvani which said that, "Oh Kamsa," who was the charioteer, was a cousin of Devaki, almost like her brother, "You fool, the woman whose chariot who you are taking on her chariot, her 8th son will kill you. Will be the cause of your death." It's a little ambiguous, there's gender neutrality over there. Her 8th womb, the 8th offspring from her womb will kill you. Ashtam Garbha. So immediately Kamsa's attitude changes. And the same woman who is carrying so lovingly this chariot, he turns around, grabs her hair, and is about to lop off her head. At that time, Vasudeva has to do an emergency intervention to protect his new bride. And he reasons in various ways. One of the reasons he says is, "Oh Kamsa, if you are destined to die, then nobody can stop destiny." Says, why in trying to stop that which is unstoppable are you doing terrible activities? If you consider wrongdoing, the first wrongdoing is for a warrior. Warriors are meant to be protectors, not murderers. So as a warrior, instead of protecting women, you are attacking and killing a woman. And this is not just any woman, this is the first wrongdoing is attacking and killing a woman. Second is, this is not just a woman, this is your own sister. So, this is, if you have wrongdoing, there's wrongdoing squared over it. And it's not just your own sister, it's your sister on her wedding day. So, don't do this. It's wrongdoing cube. Now, when I read this, I had a question. Vasudeva does not use that same reasoning for himself. He doesn't think, if Devaki is destined to die, what are my arguments going to do? Let her die. So, what's going on over here? The idea is that when there is an understanding of destiny, which I'll explain what it means, the understanding of destiny is not meant to make us abandon our duty. It is meant to, after we do our duty, the results that we get, we accept those results. That is the idea of destiny. So, you could consider pendulum. So in the pendulum, one side is what is in Sanskrit terminology called as karmavad. Karmavad is everything is determined by our karma. I work hard and everything will be determined. I will succeed. As in, तुम्हारी किस्मत तुम्हारे हाथों में. Your destiny is in your hands. Now the other, this is one extreme of the pendulum. The other extreme of the pendulum is Daivavad. Daivavad also says your destiny is in your hands. But in a different sense. That is, your destiny is written in your hands. Not made by your hands, but made in your hands. It is written already. So destiny, Karmavad, Daivavad holds that everything in our life is destined. Whereas Karmavad says nothing is destined. You make your future. Now the Bhagavad Gita explains that there is a balance between the two. That for all of us during the course of our life, there are some things which are in our control and some things which are not in our control. And for the things that are in our control, we need to do the best that we can. We need to do our duty. Sometimes the word duty has a negative connotation. It's a burden, it's a chore that has to be done. But duty here refers to taking responsibility for doing our best. So for the things that are in our control, we need to do our best. And for the things that are beyond our control, we need to accept what happens. We need to accept those results. So in the case of Vasudeva, it was his duty to protect his wife. Normal duty of a person is to take care of his family. So he, while sticking to his duty, did not think about destiny. Oh, destiny is unfavorable. Okay, whatever destiny is there, I have to do my duty. On the other hand, Kamsa was giving up his duty. His duty is to protect his family, but here his own sister, he's trying to kill her. And then he's bringing in destiny. So the principle over here is, philosophy is meant to improve the quality of our life, not worsen the quality of our life. If philosophy makes someone irresponsible, if philosophy becomes a justification for a person to act carelessly, recklessly, irresponsibly, then that is counterproductive. So you could phrase this as an equation. That there is karma, there is daiva, and there is kala. So karma plus daiva plus kala leads to phala. Karma is our duty. Let's take a few examples to illustrate this. Karma is our duty. That suppose somebody is a farmer. Now sowing the seeds and plowing the land. That is their duty. That is their karma. Then the rains coming in the right quantity at the right time. That is daiva. It's required, but that's not in their control. And when karma and daiva both work together, after that kala, time has to pass till the harvesting season comes. And then they will have the phala, which is the harvest. So this could be put in English as 4 Ds. There's duty plus destiny plus duration. That will lead to the 4th D, that is the desired result. Duty, destiny, duration leads to the desired result. And this applies in every area of life. Suppose a couple get married and desire to have a child. They may unite. That is their part, the first deed. But that does not mean every time union leads to conception. If conception requires something higher, which is not in human control, that is destiny. And even when conception occurs, it's not that the next year child is born. There is a period of gestation, there is duration. So duty plus destiny plus duration leads to the desired result. Eventually they become a child. So this is a universal principle. And different thought systems have gravitated toward different extremes. The Western world is more and more gravitating towards karmavad. Everything is in our hands. And the result of this is, when we take initiative in our hands, we can do a lot of things. We can have an enormous amount of material progress. And the West has progressed enormously. But curiously, what happens is, to the extent we say that everything is in my hands, to that extent, everything becomes my problem also. If I think that I should succeed at everything, and if I don't succeed, sometimes that lack of success may be because of factors beyond my control. But it becomes very difficult to accept. And that is a curious phenomenon, that while in the Western world and the westernized part of the world, we have more and more material progress, we also have more and more mental distress. Now, mental distress and mental health problems are a complicated phenomenon, but there is an underlying common denominator. And that common denominator is that when we are unable to say no or take no gracefully, we try something and it doesn't work. We need to be able to take no gracefully. When we can't take no, it can lead to depression, it can lead to anxiety, it can lead to a variety of mental disorders. So to some extent, the understanding that there are factors beyond my control. And because of it, sometimes things may not work out. When we don't accept that, when we talk about depression, depression is essentially anger directed inward. When, okay, I tried this relationship, it didn't work out, I tried this career, this didn't work out, I tried this particular exercise routine, it didn't work out, I tried to do this, it didn't work out. And then I am worthless. And nothing is going to work for me in my life. We start beating ourselves up. So anger directed inward, frustration directed inward leads to depression. And to some extent, not understanding destiny is the cause of this. On the other hand, if we go to the Eastern civilizations, now again, even in the West and in the East, there have been many different thought systems, and I don't want to absolutize, although I'm generalizing. There have always been exceptions. But the Eastern system, as they existed in recent history, they were more destiny-centric. Okay, whatever is happening, just accept it and live with it. That is how a few thousand Britishers were able to rule several million Indians. Okay, that is our fate and destiny. But that was not the ethos always. So when there is a destiny-centered society, there is a great capacity for mental strength. Even if terrible things happen, a person, okay, this must be my destiny, let me accept it and move on with my life. There is a great capacity for mental strength. But there is a great lethargy also at a physical level. How to change things. How to move ahead in life. What is there in my control? I need to do that. So we as a human society need a balance of both. That it's not just karma, it's not just daiva. It's actually karma and daiva together. And Vasudeva demonstrates that he accepts that this danger is there, that Kamsa is in a terrible state of mind right now. He cannot reason with him. So what he does is, he tries his best to protect Devaki. And he can't. He reasons and he says, okay, there's no danger for you from her. It is from her child. So, I will give all her children to you. So he is doing his duty to protect her, whatever he can in that situation. And this combination of accepting daiva and sticking to karma, accepting what is unchangeable and doing what is changeable, that combination is actually called as dharma. Dharma is not just religion, dharma is not just ritual, dharma is not just nature. Dharma is the right thing to do. The right thing to do involves diligence and acceptance. Diligence for doing what is in our control, acceptance for what is not in our control. Now, it said that, okay, the 8th child will kill you. That raises the question, is death destined? Are certain things in our life destined? We mentioned destiny means that which is going to happen. So what does it actually mean? So the understanding is that for all of us in our life, we all have a certain starting point, which is not in our control. We are all born in a particular family. Based on our genes, we have a particular complexion. We have, to some extent, our IQ level is fixed by our genes. We can increase it to some extent, definitely. But many of our talents, they are inborn. So, we all have different starting points. The Gita explains that our existence is multi-level. We are not just our physical bodies. Our physical bodies are like our vehicles, yantra, rudhani, mayaya. And we are spiritual beings. The body and the mind are both tools for us to use. It's like if there's a computer system, there's the hardware, the software, and the user. The body is like the hardware, the mind is the software. And we as Atma are the user. So, we all get a particular car, a particular device at the start of our life. And that is something which we don't control from this life's perspective. So if we come to a particular place, maybe our college sends us for some conference, or we work in a company, and they send us for some meeting. And we go there, the company has provided a car for us to drive. And we don't have much choice which car we use. As the car we give, we use that. So like that, all of us have a starting point. That is not in our control. That is the kind of body-mind machine that we have. And then, after that, so the Gita calls this as our swabhava, our nature. The body-mind machine has a particular way of functioning, and intelligence means understanding how it functions and learning to use that functioning optimally. But there is a destiny. By the way, some people say have outstanding memory. Some people have photographic memory, some people have eidetic memories. Some people have outstanding memory, and some people have outstandingly poor memory. So as some people are wise and some are otherwise. So this is the starting point we all have. And beyond the starting point, which is determined by destiny. But along with that, something more. If we are in a particular city, say we have been sent by a company or college to a particular city, then the traffic conditions over there are fixed. The weather conditions are there fixed. We can't change them. So similarly, for all of us, when we go through our life journey, certain events are going to happen. So, as you said, destiny means what is going to happen. That doesn't mean everything is controlled. Certain things, if we are born in a particular country, a particular region, we will encounter certain difficulties. I know some of my friends who are living in Ukraine and just going through normal life, and suddenly their life is disrupted. Some of them have left and come to Canada, to America, to Europe, to UK. Some of them are still there trying to survive. So sometimes there are factors beyond our control which lead to certain events happening. So certain events in our life are going to happen. Now it's not only the specifics of the events as the broad pattern. Now where does this destiny come from? So two things, the starting conditions and some major subsequent events. Like the traffic, the car example, the kind of car we have and the traffic and weather conditions we are going to meet, that is fixed by destiny. However, two things. How we drive the car and where we drive the car, that is in our control. What do we decide is the purpose of our life? That's where we drive the car. And how we drive the car, that means what are the values by which we live. That is determined by us. That is not controlled by anyone. Our purposes and our values are ours. And this is where the scope for our free will is always there. And the whole purpose of the Bhagavad Gita, which Krishna spoke, was to enable Arjuna to decide his purpose and his values. How is he going to live? Now, when we talk about destiny, the idea is sometimes either trivialized or it is romanticized. Let's talk about both ideas. So romanticizing. Is everybody by destiny have a life partner? And the life partner for everybody in their life is fixed. Well, okay, if it were so, then say we have A1, A2, A3, we have A2, B2, C2, D2 like that. And so A1 is to be with B1, A1 is to be with A2, B1 is to be with B2. Now, if all of this is destined, if one person makes a wrong choice, what happens? It's not just their wrong choice, it's going to have a domino effect and change everyone's choices. So, what does it mean? See, the point is that if somebody in a relationship thinks that, oh, there is one person meant for me and I am going to find that person, well, it's not that simple. Because all relationships require work. And the important thing is not so much finding the right person as becoming the right person. Sometimes people say this, you may have seen this Gitas are in shops or in homes. जो हुआ वो अच्छा हो, जो हो रहा है वो अच्छा हो, जो होने वाला है, what is it? वो भी अच्छा ही होगा. Whatever happened was good, whatever is happening is good. Whatever will happen will also be good. Well, it's a nice thought. Now, I read the Gita almost every day, recite it regularly. I probably read the Gita more than 100 times. I have not found a single verse in the Gita which comes anywhere close to this teaching. This is a nice thought, but it is not a teaching of the Gita. Why? Because the point of the Gita is not to dwell on what is happening. It is on what we are doing. That's in the Gita places the onus of responsibility on the individual to make right choices. So, does everything that happens, is it good? Well, not necessarily. Bad things happen. Sometimes there are bad people who do bad things. When in the Ramayana, Sita is abducted by Ravana. At that time, nobody tells Sita, "Jo hua wo acha hua." Whatever happened is good. Bad things happen in life. But the important point is that while bad things can happen and bad things do happen, God is expert enough to bring good even out of the bad. To bring good even out of the bad. So what happens for Vasudeva and Devaki? It is that one after another, 6 of their children are killed right in front of their eyes. It's horrendous. But through it all, they have that faith. Something good is going to come out. They don't know what is the good that is going to come, but something good is going to come. The Gita says that yattad agre vishamiva pariname amrito. That many things which are initially like poison, they will eventually be like that. So we just need to persist through the initial poison till we can get to the eventual nectar. So this means that whatever it is that we are trying to do, that there is karma, there is daiva and kala. So we don't know how much is the kala that we will have to go through. Sometimes we are doing our karma, we are doing our part. We will be studying, we will be doing our work, but somehow we are not getting a good break. Maybe we are not getting a raise, we are not getting a promotion, we are not getting a good job offer, a relationship is not clicking for us. We are doing our best. But the karma is there, but the daiva is not working out. Now, there are times which are unfavorable for us. That is the kala. Just like if somebody comes to say, a part like Boston. Now, most of you have not here been in winter. The winter, some of you might have been. The winter from somebody who's coming from India, so if you come from the other part of India, the winter can be freezing. I was in DC once in December and I went out for a morning walk. And I looked at the temperature and I went, it was 11. It was okay. And then I thought I can go for a walk. And after some time, I was reciting some prayers, chanting some mantras. And I found that my fingers had frozen. And I tried to open my mouth, it was like complete vapor was coming and I was not able to close my mouth. I said, what happened? I said, 11 is not bad temperature. Then I took out my phone and looked at it. I had woken up early in the morning and noticed that it was a minus before the 11. So it was minus 11. So now, there are certain things which you can't change. So if somebody comes here and is staying here and it's so cold, it's so cold, it's so cold. And what you are saying is growing so old. You have to accept certain things now. It's not so cold throughout the year. But there are times when it's cold. So the kala, it may be 1 month, it may be 3 months, it may be 5 months. We need to accept that kala. And then things will change. So karma, daiva and kala. So if we have only the karma-centered understanding, we think if something is going wrong, then something must be wrong with me. It's possible that there's something wrong with us. It's also possible that we are doing our best, but just at that time, the time is not favorable. Destiny will sometimes not be favorable. So what do? We just wait and be patient. And we wait all the time. If we consider sports, say, again going back to cricket, sometimes the best player will just go out of form. This now probably we are read about it. Kohli was out of form for more than 1,000 matches. He didn't make a century for 1,000 matches. And then suddenly back in form seems. So now what is out of form? No batsman wants to be out of form. The batsman is trying the best. Every batsman wants to play well. But just not in one's control. Try your best. The dark fades. We wait through the darkness. Another example, right now the tennis US Open is going on. So suppose somebody is playing tennis. There are two things. There is serving and there is returning. Now some players are like ace machines. Just serve in such a way that it's unreturned. At that time, the player on the opposite end, all that they can do is just try to get the ball back in the court. Sometimes they can't. But eventually, it's not the other person who will serve all the time. This player also had opportunity. So there are times in our life when many things will not be in our control. And there are times when many things will be in our control. Say for example, many of you, when you choose a particular college. So when you choose a college, that is the time when you are serving. You decide, should I go to this college or this college, that college? Like, when a player is serving, should I serve into the body, or the left side, right side, what height, what speed? That's up to you to choose. Up to the player to choose. Similarly, when we are choosing a particular college, we are serving. But after you choose a particular college, and then you come, the schedule of the college, that's not much in our control. The kind of environment that we are staying in, the kind of work environment, the social environment, the cultural environment, that is the time when we are returned. You just have to accept what is there and make the best of it. So this concept of destiny actually gives a philosophical grounding for accepting that which is not changing. There are self-help teachers like Stephen Covey. They say that focus on your circle of influence, not the circle of concern. But yes, but why should I focus on my circle of influence? What is in my control and not what is in my control? Why should I not focus on it? Why are things that are not in my control? And that is determined by destiny. The Gita uses the word kshetra for this. Everyone has our kshetra, the sphere of influence. And the sphere of influence may also be different for different people at different times. There's the American thinker Mark Twain. He said that when I was 17, my father was a fool. Now I'm 25 and I'm amazed how much the old guy has learned in the last 8 years. So what happened is, it could be the father has learned, but also at 25, a person's perspective changes. When what was 17 or was 25, the perspective changes. So there are times when a father may say, I can control my child. Another father's parents say, I can't control my child. Then the kshetra changes. But as children, we may have less independence. As we become adults, we have more independence. Our kshetra keeps changing. But the important thing is not how much is our circle of influence. It is what are we doing with our circle of influence. So sometimes we are in a very constricted condition. We may stay in a room where the person with whom we are staying just don't like that person. We may be in a course where the professor just seems to dislike us. Or more likely we dislike the professor for whatever reason. We may be in a place where the weather is just not suitable for us. But these things are determined by destiny. And just acceptance is required. Accept and move on. How do we accept and move on? I'll conclude with this point, and then we can have a few questions. See, accepting destiny is not passivity. And accepting destiny is focusing on our priority. It's focusing on our priority. What does that mean? For all of us, there are many things which we can find that are wrong. There are things that are wrong with people around us, there are things that are wrong with us also. But we can't fix all of them. I talked earlier about if the place is cold. What do? Okay, I try to get some warm clothes. I try to have some heating in my room. But beyond that, to accept it and move on. If somebody is constantly complaining, it's so cold, well, come on, move on with your life. Do something meaningful. What happens is, destiny determines our problems. Destiny determines our problems. It's a message from destiny. They're telling me what time I should finish. So destiny determines our problems. Our mentality determines the size of our problems. Yes, sometimes there's a disagreeable person in our room or in our class. Sometimes the weather is unpleasant. It is there, no doubt. But how much do we think about it? How much do we obsess over it? That is up to us. So we can't change certain things, but we can change how we look at those things, how much we focus on those things. At the start of the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna had to face a very difficult choice. He had to fight against his own relatives. And by the end of the Bhagavad Gita, that didn't change. He still had to fight against his relatives. but his vision had expanded. His vision had expanded. He understood that he was not just fighting against his relatives. He was not just fighting to win the kingdom. He was actually fighting to establish the order of virtue in the world, a good government in the world. He was fighting to protect society from people who were aggressors, who were anti-social elements. And with that higher purpose, he was able to tolerate the pain of that difficult duty of fighting. So we may have to live with pain, but we don't have to live in pain. Live with pain means we all have difficult situations that we have to face. And those difficult situations come because of our destiny. But if we focus on why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to me? Then we obsess on that pain. We fixate on that problem. And that problem seems to become bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Till it consumes our entire life. And we end up with what is called as a pity party. We feel sorry for ourselves constantly. But we have an option. Okay, this problem is there. I can't deal with it right. I can't change much about it. But what can I do right? What is in my control? Can I focus my energy on what is in my control? And if we focus our energy on that, we will find that we can still make a difference. We can make a difference in our own life. We can make a difference in the lives of those around us. And that is the opportunity that we all have. So generally, whatever we focus on, that consumes our consciousness. So instead of focusing, oh, I have this problem, I have this health issue, I have this financial issue, I have this relationship issue, I have this intellectual issue. Okay, we all have issues. But, okay, what are my strengths? What are my gifts? What are my interests? What can I do in this situation? If we focus on that, our energy will go in that direction. Our consciousness will focus on that direction. And then we will start seeing that I can make a difference. A sense of progress, a sense of excitement, a sense of achievement. As we start getting that, our consciousness will expand. As the consciousness expands, the problem may still be there, but the problem will not trouble us that much. In the Gita, Krishna says this word is dukkhalaya. Dukkhalaya means it is a place of distress. Now, this is very pessimistic, a place of distress. But actually, it is like the Himalaya. Himalaya is a place of snow. Now, snow and cold are always going to be there in the Himalayas. But is that all that is there in the Himalayas? No, there's beautiful flora, there's majestic fauna, there are incredible sights to be seen, there are extraordinary adventures to be had. Climbing up the mountains, somebody is multiply minded, they can go on treks. Somebody is spiritually minded, they can go on pilgrimages to holy places. There is so much more that can be done over there. But the first thing is, accept that it's going to be good. Once you accept that, then, okay, what am I here for? What can I do? Focus on that, we'll be able to move forward. So similarly, when the Gita says this word dukkhalaya, that means problems are going to be there in everyone's life. Reset your baseline expectation. Don't expect that problems won't be there. But okay, problems are there. And some of them may feel, yeah, everybody has problems, but I have more problems than that person. See, we all want to be happy. It is possible to be happy. But the problem is, we want to be happier than others. And that is impossible. Because we always imagine that others are happier than what we are. So rather than thinking, I want to be happier than others, just focus on what can I do meaningful in my situation. This problem is there, let me accept it. By some destiny, this problem is there right now, but what can I do in this situation? What is it that is constructive? What is it that is positive that I can do? When we focus on that, we find that we can make a difference internally and externally. Our own consciousness will become filled with positivity and energy, and we will make a positive difference in the world around us. And this refocusing on the positive becomes much easier if we have a spiritual worldview. A spiritual worldview is what the Gita offers Arjuna. Krishna tells Arjuna two things. The first point I already mentioned, that we are not our physical bodies, we are spiritual beings. What this means practically is that That the problem that we face at the physical level, at the mental level, we are different from those. We exist above those problems. We are separate from them. The problems are there, they are real, but they don't hurt us. One of my friends had gone to Florida about 5-6 years ago on a writing retreat. He had gone to a secluded house, staying there completely cut off from the world. And one day he woke up, he looked at the window and he saw. He turned on the light, he didn't turn on the light. He looked at his phone, there was no internet. He opened the window and he saw there was no road around it. It was all water. There had been some storm because of flood. And so the water was rising. He didn't know anyone else. There was nobody else in the room. He said, what do I do? And then, just looking around, he had been there that place only for a day. It was a secluded cabin kind of thing. Then he said, hey, there's a door over here. He had thought it was a closet. But he said, what is it? It's too big of a door to be a closet. Tried to pull it open and he saw that there was an attic over there. So he ran up the attic. And he's still there. The water rose. The whole first level. In India, what we call ground floor, we call first floor. So that was completely covered. Look out the window, he saw that there are television sets floating in the water. It was so fast floating in the water. But he was at one level higher. And he still seen. And eventually rescue operations came and he was rescued. So the point is that for all of us, sometimes floods will come in our life. And the level of consciousness we are functioning, at the physical level, there will be problems. We just can't deal with those problems. It's not that they are there, but we can raise our consciousness. So that finding that pathway and going up the attic, that is spiritual growth. Through spirituality, when we practice meditation, when we come to a temple and worship the Lord, when we chant mantras, empowered sound vibrations like the Hare Krishna mantra, all these are ways by which we can raise our consciousness. So the problem may be there. Sometimes when we come to God and pray also we expect release from our problems. I pray and this problem goes away. Sometimes it may happen, many times it may not happen. But even if we don't get release from our problems, we can get relief amid our problems. Relief amid our problems. The flood was still there, but when he went to a higher level, the flood didn't threaten him immediately. Similarly, for all of us, spirituality offers resources not only to make sense of our life, but to rise above the ups and downs of our life. So from a wisdom perspective, spirituality helps us make sense of what is happening. There are some things we may describe, I can't change them, let me accept them. But spirituality also helps us change from an action perspective. It gives us practices by which we can raise our consciousness. So even amid problems, we won't be that troubled by the problems. So we can't control things, but just because we can't control things, doesn't mean things are out of our control. They are in some higher control. They are under divine control. Sometimes the bad things that happen to us, they may be because of our mistakes. Sometimes the bad things may be because of somebody else's mistake. But beyond these, there is a higher plan that is working. Say we are driving to a particular destination, say from, which is a good place for sightseeing from Boston, nearby.
Charles.
Sorry, Charles? Charles River. Okay. Suppose you want to go from here and GPS tells you go right. And somehow you go left. What happens? Does GPS say you disobey me, get lost? No. What does GPS do? Immediately reroutes and show you the way. So the Gita explains that God, Krishna, is the ultimate GPS. We all may take wrong turns because of our own mistakes, or sometimes others may mislead us. We may take wrong turns. But despite our wrong turns, God's plan still remains operational. We still have the opportunity to reroute and keep moving forward. So in that way, both in terms of our personal identity, I am a spiritual being and life's problems cannot hurt me directly. And in terms of understanding a divine plan, even if there are problems, whether they're created by my actions or somebody else's actions, still a divine plan remains operational. By that, we can rise above our problems. So we can't, life may determine our problems, but we can determine the size of those problems. We may have to live with problems, with pain, but we don't have to live with pain. That is the power of spirituality. When Krishna descends to this world in Janmashtami, that is what the wisdom that he offers, both through his teaching in the Gita and through his demonstration of how his parents respond and how he himself eventually responds. So to summarize, I spoke 3 main points today. First was, I introduced the concept of destiny. Does anyone remember the 4 Ds?
Yes.
What is it?
Duty. Destiny.
Duration.
Desired result.
Thank you. So, for all of us, the duty is in our control, the destiny and duration are not. And then I talked about how this affects broad worldviews. In the West, there is a focus on what is in our control, human initiative. And that's good, that leads to a lot of material progress. But it also leads to mental distress. Because when something goes wrong, we start beating ourselves up. But sometimes it is beyond our control that things are wrong. So on the other hand, if in the East, there is too much emphasis on daiva. So what happens is, you could say, there is mental resilience, there is mental stability, but there is often physical apathy, material apathy. Just think that way, they're written way here. So we need a balance of both. Karma, daiva and kala, all 3 together will lead to freedom. And then last part I discussed was, how can this make a difference in our lives? We learn to accept that which is unchanging. Not beat ourselves up, not resent others. We reset our baseline expectation. This world is a place of dukha. Problems will always be there. Instead of fixating on the problems, we expand our consciousness to see what we can do amid the problems. And to be able to focus on that, or focus on what's in our power. The 2 resources, apart from the wisdom, is the understanding that I'm a spiritual being, and you can have spiritual practices which raise us above our problems. That means we may have to live with pain, but we don't have to live in pain. And lastly, we understand that even when things are going wrong, there is a higher plan. So bad things may happen, but God can bring good even out of the bad. Therefore, let's keep doing our duty, let's doing our part as well as we can, and eventually we'll all be led to a better place, externally and internally. Thank you very much. Very much. Are there any questions or comments?
One question.
Just one minute, the mic. Chanko, can you take the extra? Hare Krishna, if anyone has a question, you may please raise your hand. We'll pass on the mic. Can you raise it? Which mic number is? 1.
You can speak the question.
So I was just asking, how do we make that distinction between, accepting destiny and then knowing our karma and then working hard for that dharma because that's karma?
So how do we differentiate between accepting what is destiny and doing that which is our duty? Yes. This is the most important question. And thank you for asking it. I deliberately speak on that differentiation in the talk. There are 2 different things over here. First is intelligence and second is experience. That means that suppose somebody tells somebody guest has come to the house and there was a huge suitcase. Are you visiting or are you moving into my house? Everything like that. So now this is such a big suitcase, can you help me lifting it? So that with that intelligence we can make an estimate. This is something we can do, I need somebody's help. But then we go there, we try to lift it, it's a huge suitcase and all empty. This actually when I go back, I plan to give so many success. So what happens is, with our intelligence, we can get a sense of what is in our control or is not in our control. But sometimes we may overestimate our capacity. And it's a small suitcase, I try to lift it. What do you have? Stones inside this? It's pretty good. So sometimes the estimate that we get of intelligence, it's underestimate, sometimes it's overestimate. But that's why we complement it with our experience. And over a period of time, this is not just linear. Intelligence followed by experience, it becomes cyclical. Intelligence and experience both lead us to a more realistic understanding of life. And over a period of time, we also understand that intelligence and experience is not just about our capacity, it's also about our inclination. Okay, this problem I could fix it, but is it really worth my time? Is it my priority right now? Yeah, there are many issues as we could get fixed. But what is important? So both our capacity as well as our priority, both we understand through intelligence and experience. See, in the Gita, Krishna does not give straight answers to Arjuna. Raja says, should I fight or not fight? Krishna doesn't tell him in 6 words. I am God, obey me, fight. Bhagavad Gita is over. No, Krishna is not simply giving answers to Arjuna. Krishna is equipping him in the process of reasoning by which Arjuna can arrive at answers himself. So that's what we need. We can't expect someone to give us bad answers. We use wisdom technique over Gita. We equip our intelligence, and then intelligence and experience combination will help us understand what battles we should fight and what battles we should fight. Any other questions? Yes. Sorry, where is this? The voice is disembodied. Where is it? Can you raise your hand, whoever has the mic? Okay, who wanted to ask a question?
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Okay, since we are testing, can you request students to come? There are more students which they are standing outside, so we will request our students to Can we have some silence, please? It's just 5 more minutes. If anyone has any questions, who was asking a question? Anyone has any questions to ask? I want to pass the mic. Anyone has? And still there are people. Why don't you? Anyone has any questions? Please don't miss this opportunity. I think we have one of the most scholarly, exalted devotee from our ISKCON community, and as you all know, that he is a graduate from CUET Pune. So please do not miss this opportunity. If you have any questions, or if you never ever thought it that you would encounter any person who you should ask, now is the time. So please take advantage of this. Anyone has any questions? Any reflections? Any reflections about today's talk? Anyone?
Thank you very much. Working.
Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Last Prabhu, micro Prabhu, what is the number? Microphone 4. 4. Can you make it 4?
Okay. So thank you very much for coming today, and wish you all very happy Janmashtami. I wish you that the Gita's wisdom enrich and empower you in your life. Thank you.